Behind the Red Line, Episode 64. The Dublin Shadow Attacker, Rachel Moran and the Women Who Didn't Get Away. Ireland, 1990s, early 2000s. Sex worker advocate Rachel Moran survived multiple attacks. Other women didn't. Their killer was never caught. In the 1990s, Dublin had a problem. A shadow stalking the city after dark, preying on women who worked the streets. A predator who believed no one cared. He attacked silently, quickly, cruelly, and one young woman, Rachel Moran, survived him. She would go on to become one of the most powerful voices in Ireland's fight for the protection of sex workers. But others never got the chance to speak. This is Behind the Red Line, Episode 64, The Dublin Shadow Attacker. In the 1990s, Dublin's city centre looked charming on the surface. Pubs glowing warm light, music drifting into the night, taxis lined up along the Liffey. But beneath the tourist gloss was an overlooked world. The lanes, alleys, quaysides, and industrial roads where survival sex work took place. It was a dangerous decade for women who worked the streets. They were invisible to the public, ignored by police, blamed for their own abuse. And predators walked freely. Rachel Moran entered prostitution at 15, a child, a runaway, a girl sleeping in squats, hostels, and stairwells. She worked O'Connell Street, Bagot Street, and other inner-city areas. She was alone, vulnerable, and the men who sought her out knew that. She remembers the faces of buyers, the ones who were nervous, the ones who were drunk, and the ones who were dangerous. Several times she was attacked, dragged, beaten, choked. She escaped, barely, but others didn't. One cold night, Rachel was picked up by a man who seemed calm, soft-spoken, polite. He drove her to a deserted industrial area. Lights sparse, shadows everywhere, no witnesses. When she leaned forward to reach into her bag, he wrapped a belt around her throat. He pulled hard. The world went black around the edges. She clawed at the belt, gasping, vision blurring. She slipped, twisted, and managed to wedge her fingers under the leather long enough to wrench herself free. She ran barefoot down a freezing street, losing breath, losing blood, but alive. The man stayed in his car, watching. Then he drove away, a predator testing his limits. Over the next 2 years, Rachel experienced more attempted attacks. Men who switched personalities mid-encounter. Men who tried to strangle her. Men who forced her into cars and wouldn't let her out. Patterns emerged. Dublin had a strangler, or more than one. And outside Rachel's own survival, other women in sex work were already disappearing or turning up dead. In the same period, Rachel was being attacked. A series of murders haunted Dublin's sex worker community. Women working the streets vanished from their usual spots. Their bodies later found dumped in canals, industrial roadsides, or fields outside the city. Some were strangled, some beaten to death, some mutilated. Each case treated as separate, each case under-investigated. Police rarely connected the dots. The public barely noticed. To outsiders, these women were nameless. To the predators, they were targets. And to the survivors, they were warnings. The following 4 women represented the darkest years, women whose deaths shook Dublin's underground. 1. Patricia O'Connor, found strangled near a railway line, known to have worked the same areas Rachel once walked. 2. Helen McMahon, murdered in the late 90s. No suspect ever identified. Case still cold. 3. Annie McGinley, discovered in Dublin's canals. Signs of violent assault. 4. Mary, name withheld by family. A migrant sex worker found dumped outside city limits. Her case was barely reported in the news. These murders were not random. They were patterned, and they were preying on women most vulnerable to violence. In her early 20s, Rachel experienced one final attack. A violent man who attempted to choke her into unconsciousness in a car off Baggot Street. He smiled while she fought him, smiled while she suffocated, smiled like it was entertainment. Rachel somehow escaped through the passenger door, rolling onto the wet pavement, lungs burning, body shaking. She didn't go back the next night, or the next, or the next. That was the moment she decided to leave. She saved her life, and she would spend the rest of it fighting for women still trapped in that world. Rachel got clean, rebuilt her life, learned to speak about what she endured. She wrote, "Paid for My Journey Through Prostitution," one of the most powerful testimonies ever published by a survivor. She founded the organization Space International, one of the first survivor-led anti-prostitution groups in the world. She became a voice for women whose voices were buried. And while her attackers were never caught, her survival helped expose the darkness Dublin tried to ignore. There are several reasons the murders and attacks from this era remain unresolved. Victims were sex workers, often dismissed by authorities. Many had addiction struggles. Some lacked family advocates. Investigations were shallow, rushed, or incomplete. Predator behavior was opportunistic and mobile. No DNA linked the cases. Ireland lacked resources at the time. These women fell through every crack, and predators thrive where women are invisible. Rachel Moran survived, but she carries the memories of the women who didn't. Their names, their faces, their final nights, walking lonely streets, all swallowed by time. Dublin looks different now, brighter, safer, more alive. But the shadows remain, and somewhere in those shadows are the ghosts of the women the city left behind. This is Behind the Red Line, Episode 64, The Dublin Shadow Attacker.